minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Special Agent Newell, you said firearms are not in and of themselves contraband. That's true unless they are sold to, possessed by, or acquired by a prohibited person, which would include a straw purchaser. So my question to you is this. Did ATF have contemporaneous or pre-knowledge of any straw purchasers purchasing weapons in Arizona?
Well, sir, straw purchasers are not prohibited individuals unless they've been convicted of some crime.
No, it is against the law to purchase a gun knowing you're going to transfer it to someone else, to therefore get around the fact that the person you're going to give it to is a prohibited person. Agreed?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, that's a straw purchaser. Someone who's going to give the gun to a prohibited person is a straw purchaser. So now that we've got that cleared up, did you know that anyone who is acquiring firearms from firearms dealers in Arizona were straw purchasers? Contemporaneous with the acquisition, did ATF know it?
We have to prove that, in fact, that it's a violation. Yes, sir. We presented to the U.S. Attorney's Office evidence that we believe that these individuals were, in fact, straw purchasers.
All right, let's do it another way. The very first weapon recovered in Mexico through a trace, did you go back to the purchaser of that weapon and interrogate him?
I do not know, sir.
Did anyone with ATF?
I'm not aware of that, no, sir.
Why not?
I don't know, sir.
You've got a gun that was purchased in Mexico, that purchased in the United States, that makes it into Mexico. You know through your trace that that's the gun. Did you go back to the person who purchased it? That's an old-fashioned investigative technique. It's not as complicated as letting guns walk. It is more effective, though, to actually go interrogate the person who made the acquisition. Did you do that?
Well, sir, as I stated earlier, in this investigation, realizing that if you take off one straw purchaser, you're not making an impact on the greater organization.
Right. I want to ask you about the greater investigation, because I've written down 4 different times you've said disrupt, dismantle, destroy.
Yes, sir.
How are you going to extradite drug kingpins from Mexico?
We don't have plans to do that, no, sir.
So once the guns make it to Mexico, there's nothing you were going to do about those drug kingpins?
Yes, sir, there was.
What?
One of the things we wanted to do was, as soon as we had solid information on who the drug kingpin, if you will, was, to share that information with Mexico.
But you didn't share the information with Mexico ahead of time.
Well, sir, we did.
So they're supposed to trust American law enforcement, who's been conducting an investigation and knows firearms are going into Mexico, and you tell them after the fact, and they're supposed to thank you and be partners in this endeavor?
Well, sir, it wasn't only until we had information on who the specific recipient or the drug kingpin was that we felt it was prudent to share that information, because we weren't sure.
How are you going to dismantle Mexican drug cartels if you're not going to extradite the kingpins back to the United States?
Because we hope that the Mexican officials will, in fact, prosecute them for that.
So you're doing this to help the Mexican criminal justice system. You're just not going to tell the Mexican criminal justice system about it.
No, sir, I disagree with that premise.
Well, that's exactly what you just said, Special Agent, that you were going to tell them about it after the fact.
Well, we didn't. We had to know it first. We had to know who the drug, we had to, through this investigation, and as it continues.
Okay, you got the first trace that tells you a U.S. gun is found in Mexico. Why did you not go interview the person who acquired the gun? Why not do the investigation the old-fashioned way, with car stops, with search warrants, with active surveillance? Why do it this way? It was never going to work.
Well, again, years of experience have shown us, sir, that removing one straw purchaser will not have an effect on a larger investigation.
Well, Special Agent, the only way it possibly could have worked would have been if Mexico had extradited these kingpins. If you want to disrupt, dismantle, destroy, the only way it could work is if you told Mexico, or I would have settled for you just telling your own fellow agents about it ahead of time, because ATF in Mexico didn't know about it, did they?
Well, sir.
Yes or no, did Mexico ATF office know about this?
They were aware of the investigation, yes, sir.
They were aware that weapons were going into Mexico and you knew about it?
That we knew about it? That, sir, weapons go into Mexico all the time.
From straw purchasers that you knew about? Well, let me ask you this. If Mexico were to ask us to extradite the law enforcement officers who knowingly aided and abetted weapons going into Mexico, what would your reaction to that be?
I would explain to them that Our concern in an investigation of this type is to take off the whole organization so we have the greatest impact possible, and not, if you just take off one straw purchaser, you're not having an impact on the greater effort, which is to
Special Agent Newell, my time is up. I'll just say this in conclusion. I worked with ATF for 6 years directly. I worked with ATF indirectly for 10 years as just a State DA. This is one of the saddest days in my 6 months in Congress. It may be the saddest day. ATF has a wonderful reputation in South Carolina. We never once contemplated letting firearms walk, ever. A first-year Quantico or Glencoe person knows that. I'll yield back.
I think.